Israel's latest airstrikes in Gaza have caused multiple casualties. Some of the dead were from one family, killed in an encampment for the displaced in the Al-Mawasi area. Children were also among the victims.
They bombed us while we are sleeping on the ground. We didn't do anything wrong. 2 of my children have died, and the rest are in intensive care. There's no flour, no supplies, no food or water. We are moving from one place to another. What have we done to deserve this?
Well, as the carnage against Palestinians in Gaza continues, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has announced another round of evacuations in northern Gaza in order to carry out a new offensive, of course, as this genocide continues. So it's all likely because he wants to continue postponing his corruption trial. And unfortunately, the courts in Israel have granted him another 1-week postponement. Now, his tactic, again, has worked for now. Let's watch.
Benjamin Netanyahu will be convening his security cabinet. He was supposed to be in court this week on the stand in a long-running, often delayed corruption trial. He's accused of charges including bribery and fraud. He denies them all. Judges agreed he could be excused on diplomatic and security grounds for now. Israeli officials are heading to the White House today for talks on Gaza and Iran. President Trump has called on Israel to, quote, make the deal in Gaza.
Well, the postponement for now is just a technical thing. Netanyahu, the trial after 5 years is at a stage where Netanyahu has taken the stand and he's now answering the questions of the prosecution. So it's an uncomfortable stage of the trial for him. But he's already in that stage, and the postponement now is just a week after the judges have been convinced by the heads of Israeli security branches that there's something very important that the prime minister needs to deal with, and therefore they have to wait until they resume the trial.
Yeah, well, the courts need to stop giving him postponements, because if he's going to continue using the genocide that he's carrying out in Gaza as an excuse to continue postponing his corruption trial, he's going to keep the genocide going. And that's what has been happening since the very beginning of this war. Massacres of Palestinians at the hands of the Israeli Defense Forces have been ramped up in recent days. In fact, just today, at least 60 people across Gaza were killed in heavy Israeli attacks. A journalist was among those who were killed in Gaza City specifically. The Gaza Health Ministry also says that at least 81 Palestinians have been killed and more than 400 injured in Israeli strikes across Gaza in the 24 hours until midday on Saturday. In one incident, at least 11 people, including children, of course, were killed after a strike near a stadium in Gaza City. Al-Shifa hospital staff and witnesses told news agencies the stadium was being used to house displaced people living in tents. So the IDF continues bombing, literally like these tent encampments because Palestinians have been displaced. Nearly every single residential building has been bombed. It's a complete and utter disaster. And on one hand, you have Trump claiming, I want a ceasefire deal, ceasefire now. Well, why did you approve another weapons package for Israel to the tune of $510 million? And I can get into the details about those weapons in just a moment, but you can't on one hand call for an end to the war and then on the other hand continue rewarding Israel with endless weaponry, paid for by US taxpayers, by the way.
Yeah, that's because he's negotiating with the donor class. He's saying, look, I made him stop attacking Iran. Okay, then I'll give you something in return. I'll give you $500 million in war. But wait, why do we have to give them anything? They're taking money from us. They're asking for help. They're asking to drive us into war. What do we get back? And the answer is always absolutely nothing. Nothing but grief and enemies and a stain on our nation's history for financing a genocide. But Trump's negotiating. But who's he negotiating with? He's already the president of the United States. Apparently there are people that are more powerful than the president. That's why Trump's like, okay. I'm so sorry for making you stop bombing Iran. Here's a $500 million gift, right?
Yeah.
Etc. Okay, so now you're saying, all right, look, I get it. Gaza's a slaughterhouse. Israel's killing people. almost for sport now. We reported last week about how they're playing Squid Games, red version and Israeli version of red light, green light. And the operation is named after it. It's called Salted Fish, and the operation is Operation Salted Fish. Okay, so it's now just like beyond disgusting. Everyone that keeps killing in Gaza are going to go straight to a museum one day. They're all going to be in some sort of genocide remembrance museum. I hope 100%. To God one day Smotrich and Ben Gvir, let alone Netanyahu, are arrested. So we'll come back to that. But I want to talk about Smotrich because it's critical to what you're seeing today. If you're saying, yeah, I got it, it's like they do bombing all the time, but why bombing northern Gaza again? Because they're trying to drive people into the south. Why are they trying to drive them to the south? Well, that brings me to this quote from Smotrich from the Times of Israel. Within a few months, Smotrich says, we will be able to declare that we have won. Gaza will be totally destroyed. And he says, in another 6 months, Hamas won't exist as a functioning entity. Oh, good, then you have no reason to be there, right? No, he continues, the population of Gaza will be concentrated from the Morag corridor southwards. The rest of the strip will be empty. He then adds, the Gazan citizens will be concentrated in the south. They'll be totally despairing, understanding there is no hope and nothing to look for in Gaza, and will be looking for relocation to begin a new life in other places.
This is the country, by the way, that has a clandestine nuclear weapons program. They have nuclear weapons. They're not part of the non-proliferation agreement. They are currently engaged in genociding Palestinians in Gaza. They plan on annexing the entirety of the West Bank, a territory that belongs to the Palestinian people. And they have the audacity to talk about what a threat Iran is when Iran has shown on multiple occasions a level of restraint that blows my mind. Okay, Israel bombs the Iranian embassy in Syria. How does Iran respond? They wait a few days and then they hit up Trump, they hit up the Israeli government and they let them know we're gonna do a theater, essentially. Make it appear like we're retaliating, but here's where the missiles are gonna go, so you can strike them down. Okay, you have the United States, doing Israel's dirty work in bombing Iran nuclear facilities. And how does Iran respond? Okay, we're gonna retaliate, but it's all gonna be pretend. We're gonna target these US bases in the Middle East, but we're gonna warn you ahead of time so no one gets hurt, so we can at least make it appear as though we're retaliating for our people. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm getting really tired of hearing about how the genocidal country of Israel is the good country, the moral country, the country that should have illegal, nuclear weapons that they don't even acknowledge. And the ones that we should worry about the most are the Iranians because they do chants that we don't like. Get out of here.
Look, you could
get out of here.
You could deny this if you're an Israel supporter, but I don't even think Israel supporters would overly deny it.
Israel's a threat, okay? The real threat.
Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
The country most likely to use a nuke is overwhelmingly Israel.
100%.
Because look, the reason why I say a lot of Israel supporters would also agree is, my God, if they're slightly in danger, they're gonna press that button so quick, okay? I mean, you know it. Look, Iran is in danger all the time, constantly bombed by Israel, America, etc. So many other countries that are in danger and they don't use those. Now, Iran doesn't have nukes, so they couldn't use them anyway, right? But the minute Israel gets jittery, they're gonna press that button. By far the most likely to use it because they have a population and a government that is deeply, deeply paranoid. They think the whole world hates them and they have to attack first before anyone even thinks about attacking them.
The whole world does hate them.
But because of this genocide.
Because of this.
Right.
Okay, like I'm so, how are you gonna put yourself in the position of like poor little victims when they're slaughtering tens of thousands of innocent people, not feeling any remorse about it whatsoever? You literally have people in the Israeli government who don't believe there's a single innocent person in Gaza.
Yeah.
They think they're all violent, dangerous terrorists. But honestly, who are the terrorists here? When you're just slaughtering all these children willy-nilly. Haaretz reported today, 17,000 children slaughtered in Gaza so far.
Yeah, no, there's no question. The Israeli government is definitely more dangerous. It's, by the way, also more religious nut jobs. Like, part of the reason I hate the Iranian regime is because they're fundamentalist nut jobs, right? But are they crazier than Smotrich and Ben Gvir? No way. No way, because Ben Gvir and Smotrich are proven genocidal religious maniacs. Whereas we're worried that the Ayatollah is someone who could commit a lot of violence and is a religious maniac, right? But okay, so by the way, one of our members made a really good point last week. They said, so let me get this right. In this ceasefire negotiations, Iran is asking that Israel also stop attacking Gaza. That's their #1 ask.
Yeah.
So they're asking on behalf of another people. By the way, the Palestinians aren't even Shia like the Iran is. They're Sunni. They're on behalf of a rival sect. They're saying, can you please stop murdering those people? What is Israel asking? That Trump support Bibi Netanyahu in his corruption charges.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I mean, it gives you a sense of morality. I'm not defending the Iranian regime. I'm just showing you how much more despicable the Israeli regime is. And so you can cry about it, and you can do propaganda, but Israel attacked Iran. Israel is the one that has attacked almost all of its neighbors. Iran not only got attacked by Israel, America, they also got attacked by Iraq.
Yep.
And back then, we were on Iraq's side. And Iraq used biological and chemical weapons on Iran. Iran has been attacked and attacked and attacked while our lying mainstream media and our lying politicians told you Iran is dangerous evil. They're the real problem. That's why we should murder them first, right? Yeah, stupid warmongers. So now, lastly, back to this story here about how Israel's driving them to the south. So if you're wondering, hey, in most of these stories, Israel's not even, like sometimes they pretend to have targeted a Hamas guy. A lot of times they don't even give almost all the time they never give a name. They're like, yeah, there was some militant in the area. And then they just murder a bunch of children and families. And if you're wondering why, like do they just like killing kids? No, they're bombing the families to drive them to the south so they could finish the Smotrich plan, which is to make life in Gaza so unbearable through murder and starvation that they could push them into the Sinai desert and take all of Gaza for greater Israel. Now that's from the river to the sea, but actually done and executed and planned by our beloved ally, the moral army, okay? No, the disgusting government of Israel that is trying to add ethnic cleansing on top of their daily terrorism against Palestinian civilians and children.
And for Israelis or Israel defenders who want to come at me for working on a show called The Young Turks as if you give a damn about the Armenian people, let's just be abundantly clear about which country supplied the weapons to Azerbaijan to engage in their ethnic cleansing of ethnic Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh. It was Israel, of course.
Of course.
So please don't even try to come at me as if Israelis give a damn about the Armenian people, because they don't. Israelis care about Israelis, end of story.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.